Hey guys, welcome to Double Shot of Steelers presented by FanDuel. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, soon to be over in Dublin, Ireland, covering Steelers versus Vikings. Look at our shiny new helmet we got here. I'm going to hold it up and show it for everybody. The video side, the official NFL 2025 Dublin game Rydell miniature helmet, because we spare no expense to generate the set of this fine program for all of yins. Welcome to the show. Mike Tomlin addressed the Steelers' travel plans heading over to Dublin. I have been promising you, not for weeks, but for months, that this would become a significant point of conversation when the time would hit, and the time has hit, and so has the significant point of conversation. This was what Tomlin had to say about the Steelers' plan today at his press conference. And the plan, incidentally, is for the Steelers to go over on Thursday after practice and get there in the very early hours, Irish time, of Friday morning.
The physical work on this side of the trip is important for us. We're doing some things to acclimate ourselves to the trip. We're working early this week to start the body clock transition process. We certainly have some best practices in terms of acclimating ourselves once we begin the journey at the latter part of the week, but nothing unique there. A lot of organizations have been traveling internationally now for a number of years. And so some of those procedural things that put you in position to best perform are less mystical and really more best practices, the hydration factor, the sleep factor, and all of those things. We had a good admin meeting yesterday regarding some of that stuff so that we can get singularly focused on the football work, the prep work that's going to be required to position ourselves to play winning football.
Yeah, a lot of that, and none of that was a lie. Okay, all of it was the truth, but there's a lot more to it, and I'm going to share some of that with you here. To begin, the NFL has a hand in all of this. The NFL is not in a great position to outright instruct people, but the NFL is and can be and was in this specific event a little bit heavy-handed. And here's what I mean by that. The Vikings are going over, and they're staying an extra week. So what the NFL didn't want, from what I understand, is for the Vikings to go over there for 2 full weeks. So the Vikings go over this way a couple days in advance, just like the Steelers. Nobody has a competitive advantage. And the Vikings aren't stuck in Europe for, again, 2 full weeks, because after this game, they go over and they play in London. So the NFL talks to those parties. The NFL says, all right, this is the way it's going to be. That's it. So if Mike Tomlin were to have woken up, I don't know, last week and go banging on Art Rooney's door and say, hey, how about if we go over a Monday instead? And I'd be like, no, man, we got this done. So there isn't going to be the way there was for London. That really was a debacle. A real easy finger to point. There isn't going to be something where you can say, aha, Tomlin did this, or Tomlin was stubborn related to London. No. This has a lot more to do with the Vikings than it does with the Steelers. Now, again, in fairness, both of these teams, the Steelers and the Vikings, are doing the exact same thing. So if they both come out looking like a total mess, the way the Steelers and the Vikings did at Wembley Stadium in 2013, it's not going to be something that's advantageous to one side or the other. I hope that at least sets the stage for the conversation that we have today, because that's what this is going to be all about. When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Chris Halleck. Hey, guys, if you're planning to see a Steelers game, use the Game Time app to get your tickets. You can snag new ticket deals before anyone if you set it into your app alerts. The app is easy to use. No surprise fees at checkout. You can see your seat view before buying, and you're getting legit tickets delivered on time. If you're not much of a planner, you can get last-minute deals on tickets right up to the start of the event. Lowest price guaranteed. where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app and enter the code DK Steelers into your app profile to get $20 off your first purchase. Welcome back. Joined now by Chris Halleck. And I see that Steelers Mexico has already come in and says, what a horrible schedule for the Vikings. Why? I don't think that's horrible at all. The team that's going to come over to face them a week later is going to be coming over with all the jet lag and everything, and the Vikings will be there having a great time in a great city while they're already completely adjusted. Chris, when you heard Mike Tomlin today, did it almost sound like he was ready to do a preemptive strike to cut off any potential criticism at him?
Yeah, because I think he knew that was kind of coming. He knew it was going to be a talking point with the way London went down. But to your point on what you said, prior to, or in the opening segment there, there's a lot of truth to what he said. That when 2013 happened, when that London trip happened, the international games weren't as what's the best way to put it? It's not that
he used the term mystical,
right?
That they were seen as being these crazy anomalies that we couldn't believe that we were over there. And now the NFL has 12 games overseas a year.
There are so many international games now. There are so many teams that have made this trip. The Jaguars can pretty much give they're pretty much writing the book on how to go over to London and handle it because they're over there every single year. So that part is true. And the NFL makes sure that those teams don't hide that information that they go through. And, we're seeing tangible efforts made. One thing Tomlin said that they're doing is they're practicing earlier in the day. Both Wednesday and Thursday. It's only 90 minutes, but it's still 90 minutes earlier. You're still getting your body used to waking up a little earlier, going to bed a little earlier, and it's still a process that they are actually trying to do things to get the players ready.
And that was new today, by the way. That was not information that the team had it wasn't information. It wasn't even a conclusion that the team had reached until they put it out to everybody today. So that was part of what you heard Tomlin saying in that opening segment was the admin talks and the things that he wanted to get out of the way before focusing fully on football. The other thing to understand, and he said this at the very beginning, but he got through it real quickly, and I want to emphasize it. The reason that Tomlin stayed in Pittsburgh as long as he did, and this is when it was 100% up to him in 2013, was he just focuses on his practices, on his facilities, on his fields. His only worry in advance of a football game is that there's enough preparation, if there's enough time and the weather conditions and the indoor bubble and everything else so that they can get their X amount of work in before that game. Now, you're going to have a practice over there, and that is the Steelers' intent. And the intent is to have one on Friday. They have a field lined up. It's not Croke Park, but it's another field. They hope to have contingencies in the event of weather to have that practice done. But my point here isn't to bore you with the details. Rather, it's to let you know what they're worried about. This coach is a lot more worried about getting through the proper practice routine and the walkthrough on Saturday that they're going to have at Croke Park than he is about, did so-and-so player get enough sleep on the plane or whatever. That's his priority. Now, that might be easier for him to say than for others because he did acknowledge sleeping on the plane the last time, and about half the team didn't sleep on the plane. So this really is the difference for those of us who travel overseas on a regular basis. The difference is, did you sleep on the aircraft or did you not? Because if you did not, you're gonna have to pay for that at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm flying out. I'm leaving for the airport like an hour after the show. The show is over, and I'm preparing. I'm I've got my bag packed a certain way so that I actually take my contacts out before I even get on the plane, so that I'm planning on sleeping like that. That's my particular goal. And for those players in particular, because they're going later in the week, sleep on the plane absolutely has to be part of this equation. Now, not every single player is going to be able to. It's just some people cannot sleep on planes. But then also, I mean, TJ Watt talked about it yesterday when they had the locker room open. He said, like, I'm trying to sleep as much as I can now, like in the days leading up to it. Like, you have to try to sleep as much as you can. You also have to try to, it's also when you sleep. Are you going to bed earlier? Are you waking up earlier? I think that's why you're seeing things like the Steelers doing things earlier in the day. I mean, some people might think, oh, they're only practicing like 90 minutes ahead of time, which means practice will start at 11 instead of 12:30. Yeah, they get there way before practice actually starts. Like way before. And so that means they're going to be getting there 90 minutes earlier than they were before. So their days are going to be starting really, really early.
Yeah, you know what, though? One way or another, come kickoff, and that's going to be at 9:30 a.m. Pittsburgh time. Mm-hmm. It's going to be at 2:30 p.m. Irish time. It's a football game. They have smelling salts. They have, I don't know. They can take some Turners over or something,
Whoa. Yeah. We just switched everything.
And they can find a way to, make sure that they're awake and alert and everything else, and go ahead and play a football game. I do know that when you're going back through time in 2013 when the Steelers and the Vikings met at Wembley, that the first quarter and really the first half was just kind of this Walking Dead zombie fest. And really even the third wasn't much of an event. By the time they got to the fourth quarter, because the game was close, I think you started to see some adrenaline kick in and guys getting a little bit more into it. But afterward, it was wow. I mean, I've described this scene many times over the years, but these guys were just and not just because they lost, not just because they were 0-4. They couldn't even speak. Yeah. Like, if you can picture Ryan Clark not being able to speak. And believe me, I'd say that if RC was standing right here, because he couldn't. Yeah, and that was phenomenal to see. I remember the session with Ben Roethlisberger. There was no more than a handful of us around him. It must have lasted a minute and a half. Yeah, gotta get back to the lab. Yeah, it's tough now. Yeah, we're gonna have to fight back. Yeah, and that was it. Like, all right, Ben, thanks. There was nothing there. So no matter what you do, this isn't going to be perfect. I don't know that the following week's game for the Vikings, not that I care about them, is going to be a perfect thing. It's a significant adjustment. The human body, no matter how often you do this, doesn't, and the mind and everything else and the rest factor isn't going to be a thing. The other thing that the Steelers have to concern themselves with, though, on this trip, Chris, is these guys that just put up 500 billion points on the Bengals. When you look at what the Vikings did to the Bengals, how much of it was Cincinnati's defense being exactly what it is, and how much of it was Minnesota starting to find itself?
Well, I mean, so Mike Tomlin talked about it today. He talked about how, I think a lot of fans are going into this and thinking, oh, well, the Vikings are going to have Carson Wentz at quarterback and not J.J. McCarthy. And Tomlin said that actually might not be a bad thing for them. He said veteran quarterbacks or like veteran backups, they do a lot of the intangibles right. Like they're professionals. They operate everything within structure. And when you have a very, very smart offensive coach like Kevin O'Connell is, the floor is pretty high for that offense, especially when you look at the weapons that the Vikings have, that Carson Wentz has to throw to. Plus, they're getting Jordan Addison back. TJ Hawkinson is a very, very good tight end. We just saw what Hunter Henry was able to do against this defense. If you have TJ Hawkinson in fantasy, you better start him this week. And then, of course, there's that guy named Justin Jefferson, who, in my opinion, is the best wide receiver in football. Yeah, the Vikings got some guys. They got some dudes, and they have a very smart offensive coach. And for everything that people want to say about Carson Wentz, he's been in the league for a while now. At one point, he was a borderline MVP with the way he was playing the year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Obviously, Nick Foles had to take that over because of Wentz's injury. But before that injury, Wentz was, like I said, playing at an MVP type level. So this is a guy who's had success. He's been in the league for a while, and he's playing for a really smart offensive coach. This is not a team to be taken lightly, and we're not even talking about the defensive side of the ball yet.
The Minnesota defense is going to be something for the Steelers to contend with on multiple levels, not least of which is that they're going to be aggressive, which is not what you want if you're the Steelers and you've got that offensive line and you're already running from your own shadow, which they are schematically these days with all the short passes and everything else here. I have a theory about what the Steelers could do, and it feels like it's really wacky, and I don't know that it should be. But if you're sending 3 or 4 guys, this is independent of the Vikings, Chris. If you're sending 3 or 4 guys out on routes, regardless of what positions they are, wide receiver, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, running back, whatever, it doesn't matter. However many guys you're sending, and they don't have the time to run their routes, and your quarterback doesn't have the time to survey where they are anyway, what are you doing? Like, why not just come up with, and I know this is going to feel like a concession, or just giving up. But why not just say we're going to become a 6-man line. We're going to go max protect here because as things are, listen, it's never great. We talked about this all summer. It's never great to take someone like Darnell Washington and remove him as a weapon. But he's not being utilized at all. Yeah. At all. So why not just say, listen, we're really struggling here on the line. There are no rules. There are no rules about this. We can keep 6 guys in. We could keep more than that in. We can keep Jalen in to just have. I don't know. Did you see what I'm saying though?
Oh,
yeah. What you're trying to do isn't even coming close to happening.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And listen, TJ Watt talked about it yesterday in the locker room. He's saying that even with the kind of pressure that the Steelers are generating right now, which is a lot. They're still trying to figure out how to deal with so many different max protections that other offenses are giving them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why don't the
Steelers go max protect?
Yeah. Why don't they go that direction? And then I'm not saying he can't do it, but is there enough stuff in the playbook where you can try to get guys open if only, 3 or 4 guys are going out for passes? If you have 7 protecting the quarterback, if you go full blown max protection, that's 7 guys. Quarterback is an 8th guy. That means 3 guys are going out for a pass. Can you get somebody open? I don't. That's a legitimate question. Or if you don't go max protect, you just bring 1 extra guy in. You keep a tight end in to help. Maybe it gives the quarterback an extra half a second, whatever it is. You got to find ways to get guys open. You got to find ways you got to be more creative in terms of being able to stretch the field because we've seen it in flashes. We saw it with Jonnu Smith right up the seam, 21 yards. That was the pass in which Rodgers passed Phillip Rivers on the all-time list. We've seen it in flashes. We've seen it here and there, but it's not frequent enough. And until they start hitting that on a more consistent basis, defenses are going to keep playing them the same.
Denny says, if you play Darnell Washington at outer left tackle, which is not a position, Denny just made it up, you can sneak him out whenever you want without declaring him as eligible. I mean, you can also declare him as eligible the way they used to with Zach Banner on every snap. But of course, you don't have to with a tight end, but just use him for something.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're sending him out on routes, and I get it. We talked about this in East Rutherford. He was a big, literally, decoy that helped to contribute to 2 Pittsburgh touchdowns that day because the Jets felt compelled to stick with him. Great. This isn't that. That time is gone. Teams have figured out yet again that all you need to do to stop the Steelers is stack that box. Just get in there and flood them because, well, maybe because they're not going to adjust. Here's a different way of thinking about it. Here's a more positive perspective on this. Try to picture, based on what you saw, what all of us saw, Rodgers do in East Rutherford when he had a little bit of time. The way he was able to drop back, look around, see things, make his right reads, and throw the ball with precision and purpose, just by having an extra second back there, just by having an extra tick and a half, whatever it is. But you got to get it to him. And you can't keep pretending that Broderick Jones's development is a priority in this. It's not. It's not. Right now, winning the football game is the priority. Getting this offense moving is a priority. If that has to take place with either a 6-man line or with somebody else doing the blocking. Now, I'm not even going to, it's not necessarily Broad that's struggling. They all, even, Zach Frazier with another penalty the other day, weren't necessarily great in the game in Foxborough. Let this offense at least have a prayer of doing what it's designed to do. That can't happen like this.
There are also other options for giving the quarterback time. You can move the pocket. You can utilize play action. You can do a number of things. I mean, look at what Rodgers did out of play action against the Jets. I mean, he just carved them to pieces. There are a number of ways to do it, but I keep going back to, listen, I really believe that Rodgers is at a stage of his career, and I understand that a lot of the things that I've said about Rodgers have definitely been on the more optimistic side, but I've also said you can't rely on him to be your savior. The Jets did that last year, and it absolutely just blew up in their faces. You have to try to run the ball. You have to be able to not just, not just try. You have to run the ball. You have to be able to run the football. If you can't do it, you're going to be asking Rodgers to be your savior, and that's not who he is anymore.
Okay, but you're not running the football with this line. So we still keep coming back to the same subject. We saw firsthand, Chris, what Jalen had to run through in Foxborough. And ain't much. To his credit, he was hitting those holes violently. He was trying like crazy to get through. He couldn't. Because it ain't much. We're right back to the same problem. And all that you're going to have done to address this is hope and cross our fingers that those 5 guys get better individually and as a unit. You're not going to see the 6th man put in. You're certainly not going to see somebody find a fullback off the street.
Yeah.
So that's what you've got. You're just going to watch them say, well, we really need to block better. We need those guys to get better. What if they don't? What if there's no real progress from week to week? And we can say things, and they do. And I'm sure they notice little stuff that is getting better. I'm sure they're not lying about it. But to what extent? What are we seeing? What we can talk about what they talk about, or we can also listen. Not listen, but watch what it is that they're doing on the field. That tells you how petrified they are of this line. Those schemes, those plans tell you that.
Yeah. By the way, I was kind of curious about this, and I just looked it up. The Steelers are seeing the seventh highest clip of too high looks from defenses. That means they are leaving. The box is not loaded. It's 7 guys in the box. And that is 54% of the time the box is not loaded. That from what they're seeing. Now, if teams are going to keep showing too high safeties and pretty much daring the Steelers to run the ball, and they can't, you're not, I mean, what we're talking about here is a team that's not good enough to go to the playoffs.
Nope.
That's what you're talking about.
Nope. And you're talking about a line that's preventing them from getting there.
Yes.
I mean, you really are.
Yeah.
Run blocking. This is the one they tell you they like.
Yeah.
You know, run blocking is just see that guy over there, knock him on his rear end.
Yeah.
And it's not happening.
Yeah. And the one bit of optimism, I did show this in the Chalk Talk, is that they're not getting manhandled. We're actually seeing a lot. There was one block in particular. There was one run in particular that Warren got hit in the backfield for a loss, and they were running wide zone to the right, and they actually had Jonnu Smith in as the fullback, and they were running wide zone there. Everything else is blocked up. Everything else is blocked up. And Jonnu Smith is about to run through the hole, and he's about to hit a defensive back. And Pat Freiermuth comes in and cracks down on Robert Spillane and absolutely trucked Robert Spillane, like knocked him on the ground. But Troy Fautanu whiffed on a block, and that's all it took was one missed block to blow the entire thing up for a loss.
Steven says, I truly believe the coaches don't know how to fix this. It looks about the same for the past 5 years. I'm glad you used that time reference, Steven, because I've also seen a whole bunch of things in the live chat here on today's show that are bringing up, why does this same problem keep happening? Why do the names change and the problem is still there? Is it a Tomlin thing? Is it a whatever? You can start pointing fingers in different directions, but it all comes down to the line. Not in some tired cliche way. Go back to Ben Roethlisberger coming out of COVID in the year that they started 11-0. And remember what Ben was doing, because he couldn't throw hard, couldn't throw all that far anymore. No. He would get the ball, and he knew he was going to get killed behind this line, behind Kendrick Green and all that other nonsense, right? He knew. What's he do? Steps back. Boom. Steps back. Boom. What was the actual problem? Wasn't Ben, wasn't the receivers, wasn't the running backs. It was the offensive line. Keep going year after year after year. These plays that we're seeing right now, this is the way a team looks when it does not trust its offensive line. That's you can take almost every question or every criticism, comment that you'd have about the offense and boil it down to the same thing.
Now, the one thing I will say is, like, we talk about like a lot of things haven't changed, or there hasn't been a lot of change. I disagree with that. I mean, who's the most tenured player on this offensive line? And there's two. They both came in the same year, and it's Isaac Seumalo and Broderick Jones in 2023. Those are the most tenured guys on this offensive line. Not talking about Isaac Seumalo and everything he did with the Eagles. This line has been together before this season for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
2. And really, this starting 5.
It wasn't any good before. That's my point about the offensive line. Isn't the people. It's the lineage of ever since they lost their Marquise Pouncey group.
Yeah. That
you've had, regardless of the names, you've had a deficient offensive line in all 5 of those seasons.
Yeah, I think the one thing, and I've been getting, like, my live cues on the site on our app today have been absolutely harping on the offensive line like crazy.
It should.
And I've had to tell them pretty much the same thing every time. Like, listen, in the grand scheme of things, you've got 3 starters who are second-year players, and one of those guys had 55 snaps as a rookie. You have a third-year player at left tackle, and it's the first time he's playing left tackle, and you have one actual veteran on the offensive line. It's going to take time. It's just going to. There's no magic button that you can push, and people want to just automatically blame Pat Meyer for it. The problem is that you will go and you'll look at what other teams are doing. I'm like, okay, well, what are other teams doing? Like, how, like, do any other teams have the same exact situation that the Steelers have when you have 3/5 of your, like, 60% of your line are second-year players, and one of those guys didn't play almost any as a rookie?
Eric Shulo says, I guess it doesn't matter that the offensive line gave up no sacks on Sunday. And I could throw on top of that, Eric, that the Patriots had an NFL high 9 sacks coming into that game. And it all sounds really good, right? No. For the same reason that it was, this is redundant, but idiotic of Pro Football Focus to give 4 of its 6 highest offensive grades to offensive linemen. If your quarterback takes the snap and throws directly to his right to Jonnu Smith, your offensive line has ceased to be relevant in that play.
Yeah.
All of the responsibility for the blocking goes to the tight ends and wide receivers on that side. Your offensive line's never going to get over there in time. So what's the grade on that play for your O-line? Aha, quarterback got out clean. Of course he got out clean. He never had the football.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying here? It's like, how do you not see that? How do you not factor that into your grading? I don't know. But no, it does not matter that they gave up no sacks because the schematics were designed to minimize the offensive line's impact on the game, meaning their negative impact on the game. They were handed training wheels Sunday in Foxborough, and that's not good enough. That, as Chris just said, is not going to get you into the playoffs. William says, I disagree, DK. You can't take away the good that they did. Oh, you're right, William. The fact that they stood there while that ball was snapped and sent 20 yards out to the right, they were awesome. Because that's what how can anybody not see that?
Yeah. No, I mean they are clearly getting. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. I just pulled it up now. Aaron Rodgers is tied with Matthew Stafford for the 3rd fastest time to throw in the league.
Sure.
At 2.61 seconds.
How about throws behind the line of scrimmage?
Well, I can. That's something else I have to.
I got you numbers there. 10 of his 20? No, more than that. I had it in the column.
Well, average depth of target's going to be pretty.
Half of his throws were either at or behind the line of scrimmage. Most of the rest went no further than 5 yards downfield. That's not because he's lost his arm.
No, it's not.
I've seen some of that. That's not because the receivers aren't getting open. It's because he has to get rid of the football because nobody can block. That's why I can take away from the good that they did, William. They're being handicapped around. And yet, what would be a more reasonable solution, even if it might be seen as embarrassing by some, if you're going to go training wheels, go the full training wheels. Okay, put bookends, tight ends around them. I don't care if they go out for passes. I want to see somebody block a hole for Jaylen Warren. I want to see DK Metcalf given an opportunity to go downfield for a combat catch. As one of the wide receivers told me in the locker room Sunday in Foxborough, every time we went deep and somebody threw the ball, it was either a completion or a DPI. Now, that wasn't 100% true, but it was a lot of percent true.
Yeah.
What has to happen? You got to be able to block.
I agree with that, and just to continue to back that up, of the 33 qualifying quarterbacks right now, Aaron Rodgers ranks 32nd in average air yards. He's not throwing the ball downfield. He's not. I mean, he's getting rid of the ball 3rd fastest in the league, and he's got the 2nd lowest average air yards. I mean, he's not throwing the ball downfield. I still go back to I'm going to stay on. Listen, if defenses are going to give you 2 high looks and you're not going to run the ball successfully, it's going to ruin this entire offense. I mean, everything I think stems off of that. I think this entire offense was always going to stem off. I understand that they weren't going to go and going to lead the league in rushing attempts. I think everybody just thinks of an Arthur Smith offense. They're like, oh yeah, they're going to lead the league in rushing attempts. I don't think it's
you want to run, you're going to, right?
Right. But no, they want to run the ball, but they need to be more efficient. That's what they want to be. They want to be an efficient running team. And again, there's some optimism there. It's not like they're getting manhandled. Usually it's just one block that's being blown. And until they can get that figured out and get those little, as Mike Tomlin likes to call them, popcorn, they get that figured out, then the run game is going to continue to struggle. Then everything else, it's a lot easier to protect your quarterback, regardless of the offense, the state of the offensive line, how much experience you have, how little experience you have, whatever. If you are getting the defense if you are forcing the defense to either load the box to try to stop the run And then you can get, hey, that single high look, then you can attack downfield down the sidelines, or you get the defense to play in coverages that then make it easier to attack the intermediate portions of the field. And they're not doing that right now. And it's because they're not running the ball successfully. Okay, we want to talk about the first quarter is how the offense needs to look all the time. They ran the ball efficiently. They did. I mean, almost 5 yards a carry, 53 yards total, and it produced 14 points.
And
that's not an accident.
And then what did Mike Vrabel do?
I mean, they adjusted
They adjusted to stop the run.
Yeah, and once that happened, and the Steelers weren't able to, there's some other factors that went into it, but they weren't able to adjust, and it took way too long to do that. And yeah, but they got to figure it out. They're starting off games well. That's the other part of this too, is that their game planning and everything is started. They're 17 points on opening drives so far this year. That's phenomenal. You keep doing that, you're gonna put yourself in a position to win more football games than not. But they got to be able to run the ball. Everything starts with that.
Dr. Shadow says, well, it starts with the line being able to run the ball. You have a running back. You have a running back in Jaylen Warren. Dr. Shadow asks, we keep hearing about the line. Do you think the Steelers will draft offensive line again next year? Better not. Better not. And certainly not in the first round. There are as many as 6-7 quarterbacks that are projected right now. There's still a whole lot of minor league football to be played. But you're talking about a half dozen guys that are going to be in that first round. And depending on where it is that the Steelers finish, they could have their pick from, 3 or 4 of those guys?
I mean, you could trade up. You can get it.
That's when you say, hey, listen, Marvell Smith was a second rounder. I mean, that's when you start listing guys who were good tackles for you in later rounds, and just say we're done with the first round tackles. That's enough. Certainly trading up in the first round to get Broderick Jones, that just can't happen. Crum wants to know about Roman Wilson. He doesn't matter. He's not getting on the field. If he did, he would be. What option would he be for Rodgers? Like maybe the 5th or 6th? He can't check down to his second. He doesn't have time.
No. The second, the whole wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3,
doesn't matter.
It really does not matter. They've got to figure out a way to be able to, number one, get the defense to stop doing this thing where, again, they're just going too high and daring the Steelers to run the ball, and they just can't. And then trying to throw. This is. I mean, when you talk about league-wide trends, this is why offense as a whole is down and has been down over the past few years, because defenses have gone into the Seattle. I mean, Rodgers actually talked about this in one of his availabilities this year. Seattle's Legion of Boom defense. They went with the 3 high and then of course everybody starts copying it and everything. Then you see the offenses punch back. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, all these guys, they go with the wide zone attack. They start carving up defenses this way. Other passing concepts start carving up that Seattle type defense. Then defenses once again shift and they start clouding everything. They start going too high, a lot of cover 4, and now they're starting to cloud everything with match quarters, with palms, everything like this. And you just can't, stretching the field is so hard to do nowadays. And if defenses can continue to do that, and then you can't run the ball on top of it.
That's right.
That's a problem.
Our last word for today goes to Desiree, and she asks, why not have Washington be out there with either Jonnu Smith or Pat Freiermuth? I'm just saying he needs more snaps because he's a better blocker as well as a matchup nightmare. Yes. That's all I got to that one. Everything she said, yes, 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 and yes, yes. Why would you not want Darnell on the field? If your offense is out there for 65 snaps, why would you not want Darnell out there for 65 of them? Do you see what I'm saying? He's going to help you with the run blocking. If he's out there, he's going to help Jaylen Warren find some kind of edge to whatever side he's on, or at least be something of a deterrent or a bluff to one side or the other. You know he can go out for a pass. You know he can go deep for a pass. That's what she's referencing there with the matchup nightmare. And you know he's going to be able to help your weakest link on the line pass protect, and in doing so, protect the blind side of your 4-time MVP quarterback. What are we overthinking here? What exactly is happening here? We're just waiting for Broad to turn it on. That's all that's happening.
But it's not even just Broad. I mean,
No, it's not. Yeah. But that's what's happening.
Yeah, I think what they're wanting and what they're trusting in is for this offensive line to continue to figure things out, to continue to gel together, and then eventually they can start taking the training wheels off a bit. They can start trying to do some other things where they stretch the field a little bit more. I also think, and I'm curious, to get some more perspective on this, because I mentioned it, I think, in yesterday's show on how much, because we talked about with the players and their perspective, but I would like to get some more of the coaches' perspective, obviously in like off the record conversations, but like how much of this, like of September, is almost like preseason for them, where they're almost kind of feeling things out and seeing what they have. I mean, this is not just a Steelers thing. I mean, we're seeing there's a reason why September is some of the wackiest football you'll see. I mean, the Browns just beat the Packers. The Chiefs are 1-2. Like there's some wacky things going on in the NFL right now. And I don't think that's an accident. It's because teams are ignoring the preseason pretty much, which is exactly what Roger Goodell wants. And then they're kind of feeling things out in September. And I wonder how much of that is playing a role into what the Steelers are doing on offense and on defense.
Sam wants to know what we'll be bringing him back from Dublin. I don't bring stuff back, Sam. With one exception, I do collect, this won't surprise anybody, Starbucks mugs from all over the world. But I already have the Dublin. I have the last series, and I have the series before that. So I'm probably not bringing anything back. There's my great answer. What do you got, Chris? What are you bringing back for Sam?
I'll be bringing back for Sam. I don't know about for Sam, but for my kids, I'll be bringing back quite a bit for my wife. My wife is, Ireland's been at the top of her bucket list for like forever. We will be going at another point in which I won't be working.
You won't be getting anything as nice as this customized
Dublin helmet.
Right, mini Dublin helmet. Although I got to tell you, I know it's not cool to say it on a week where they're the opponent. Matt Purple wins a lot of fights.
The black face mask too. It's pretty with the black face mask too.
We're going to see a lot of this when we get over there, because that is one popular and beloved football team, including over Europe. It's going to be 50-50. And boss says, boo, you can yell at them when you get there. All right, guys, we're going to call this one a day. Make sure you download the DK Pittsburgh Sports app. It's free to download into your Apple and Android devices. But if you want the good version, and that's just how I'm calling it now, I'm not even going to pretend that the free, it has all kinds of ads on it. You can't comment. You can't communicate with the reporters, which is one of the amazing things about having a subscription. Being able to just chat with Taylor Haas the other night, which last night she was in Montreal covering the Penguins preseason opener, and our readers could communicate with her. Get the premium version, but do that by emailing me, dk@dkpittsburghsports.com. I'll hook you up with a massive discount, and you'll be really glad you got it. Chris, safe travels. I'll be joining you in a day after that. And everybody else, we'll see you here tomorrow.